Hello my friends, my name is Tim Johnson. I want to talk today about sugar addiction and how I beat mine, the techniques that I used and how it made me feel, and I want to share those with you today. Sugar addiction is very, very real. I think many people sort of shrug it off and say, oh, he's got a sweet tooth, or it's okay to treat yourselves now and again. But in today's world, it can become a very, very real issue. And for so many people out there, many of you watching this, I'm sure, we turn to sugar for, like many things, for comfort. And it can become a physical dependence as well as a psychological one. A physical dependence such as alcohol and drugs can become. And many people don't really take it seriously, and it can affect, the reason I want to talk about it, because it can affect many people in early recovery from drug and alcohol addiction. I know in those first few months, I turned to sugar for comfort, and it was really difficult to kick that addiction eventually. But today I feel so much healthier and better because I've done that. Sugar addiction causes many, many health issues. Obesity to start with, heart disease. Sugar feeds many cancers and becomes a fuel for them to grow. It is extremely unhealthy for us. Of course, we need glucose for energy to keep us going. But refined sugar, that white sugar, that hidden sugar, is where the problems lie. And of course, sugar causes the same reactions in your brain as alcohol and drugs do. And many people don't realise that. It's a massive dopamine rush when you eat sugar, because it's bloody lovely, let's face it. Who doesn't like ice cream and chocolate and all those things, those goodies that we treat ourselves with? The problem arises is when we are turning to them for comfort and using them for the same reasons as we were using perhaps drugs and alcohol in the past, or other things we were addicted to. And then the problems arise where giant weight gain, circulation problems, heart problems, blood pressure problems, diabetes, types 1 and 2, cancers, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And the problems go on and on and on and on. So it's not easy to stop. And in those early months that I got clean, I know that I was turning to sugar quite regularly, because particularly if you've had an alcohol issue, there's some serious blood sugar issues going on there, because alcohol's so full of sugar. Your body's used to that high sugar all the time, and in those early stages of recovery, it's okay to turn to a bit of ice cream and chocolate to ease those feelings and symptoms sometimes. But the problem arises if that continues and escalates, and suddenly you find yourself back in a really shit situation where you're physically dependent on sugar. And it's a very real issue, that, because when you stop, if you've been using it quite heavily, you will experience withdrawal symptoms, you will experience anxiety, you will experience some depression and headaches and lack of energy and some sleep issues and some stomach problems. These are real physiological issues that are caused by sugar addiction. So how did I beat it? Well, first of all, let me say that occasionally now, I will have, if my family visit, who all like an ice cream, and the ice cream's gorgeous around here. I'm not saying with this video that you should never again touch sugar, because that's quite unrealistic. It's nice to treat yourself sometimes, but you've got to get a handle on it and understand why you're using it, and that it is an occasional treat. And I love an ice cream now and again, but I'm very aware of where that could lead to. Particularly with my personality. So I'm not saying never ever touch it again, but I'm saying you need to break the habit. And when I beat it, I was sort of 5 months into my recovery, if you like, and I realised that I wasn't dropping weight anymore. I was actually putting weight back on again, and feeling so sluggish. I wasn't sleeping properly, and I was going out and buying a ton of shit to eat, and it was shit stuff. A lot of hidden sugar, and this is another issue. The thing is to get a handle on it and treat it and beat it in the same way as you beat your alcohol and drug addiction and any other addiction that you're fighting. So the first thing I did was slowly started to change my habits. It's probably best, to be totally honest with you, to go cold turkey, if you feel you can do that. It won't kill you. I mean, some situations with drugs and alcohol could lead to some serious complications when you go cold turkey without reducing. Sugar, no. You can just stop, and it won't be comfortable, and you will get your headaches and your gut ache and your sleep and your anxiety and a bit of depression. So if you want to reduce slowly, that's fine. But and initially I did that, and then I just stopped. And the way I did that was to look at what I was eating, to analyse my diet, and look at where all the hidden sugar was, as well as the obvious stuff, such as your biscuits and your white refined sugar, like your biscuits and your ice cream and your chocolate and all that stuff. That stuff went straight away. That went. And first of all, let me say that like I always say, don't be a product of your environment. Let your environment be a product of you. If it's not in the house, you can't eat it. If you're lying watching television late at night and you suddenly get a sugar craving and you've got a ton of chocolate and biscuits and shit in your cupboards, 9 times or 10 times out of 10, if you're me, you'll go and you'll stuff that and you'll eat it. And there you go again. So the first thing I did was change my environment, made it a product of me, got rid of all the obvious sugar stuff, such as the ice cream and the biscuits and the chocolate. They went, so it wasn't available to me in the house. And then I looked at something which you'll probably know about, called the glycemic index. And there's high glycemic index foods and low glycemic index foods. And where you should be aiming to eat is in the low to sometimes up to medium glycemic index, but preferably low. The high glycemic index foods is where all the sugar, the hidden sugar is. And that's another danger that you need to look at. Analyse your diet, because hidden sugar is a big issue. And high glycemic index foods, such as white bread, such as breakfast cereals, such as honey, such as those things that you may think might be quite healthy for you, but in fact there's a ton of hidden sugar. Some packaged fruits, the same. So avoid high glycemic index foods. Just go online and look. There's a massive list of stuff to avoid high glycemic. Get rid of those from your cupboards as well. There's no temptation. Medium and low glycemic index foods are some delicious stuff. And what that means, that low glycemic index means, is you won't get the spikes in blood sugar. You won't get the cravings. It's slow burn energy that your body uses. So you won't get high blood sugar, and that will stimulate those sugar cravings, because they are real. People say, sweet tooth, no such thing as, but sugar cravings, and all you watching this will know, sugar cravings are a real thing. Particularly if you've had a shit day or there's bad things happening in your life, you will turn, if you haven't got alcohol and drugs anymore or other addictions anymore, subconsciously the next thing is food, and you will turn to it for comfort, and it will do the same thing. It will give you that instant gratification, that dopamine rush from your brain, and then you'll feel shit when the sugar level drops and your energy just drops. Another thing to avoid is these energy drinks. Really, please avoid them. And even things like orange juice. There's a ton of hidden sugar in orange juice, fresh orange juice. It's medium to high glycemic index orange juice. It's probably best to avoid that when you're trying to quit sugar. Sugar in drinks, tea, coffee, you've got to learn. I use stevia sweetener in a coffee sometimes, which is better than aspartame, not as bad for you, and I just have a couple of them if I want my coffee to be a little bit sweeter, and I don't have it in tea at all. I drink that black with no sugar. You soon get used to that. So your low glycemic index foods to be eating, your slow burn foods are some, certain fruits like your blueberries and your blackberry. All your berries are really good. Your wholemeal stuff is very good, like your bran. Rolled oats are brilliant in the morning. If you have a bowl of oats in the morning, it'll keep you going till after lunch. There's nothing wrong with eating them in the day as well. Brown rice, even brown bread to a point, but I tend not to eat that much bread. And soon, once you get into that eating habit and you don't have all that shit in your cupboards, you find that, once that initial period of discomfort is gone, you'll find yourself feeling so much better. You'll have much more sustained energy. You'll keep going for longer in the day. You won't get sugar spikes. You won't get dips in energy where you're feeling like shit and you want to fall asleep. You generally will sleep better. Obviously, you'll drop weight. You'll find, if you've got particularly type 2 diabetes, if you eat like this, it will help it. And in some cases cure it. Your blood pressure will drop, your heart rate will slow. So many health benefits, and also mentally and subconsciously you'll be better because you're not turning to something else for comfort outside of yourself, which is what addiction's all about. So give it a go today. Do it slowly initially if you start with. Clear your cupboards of all the really shitty stuff. Get the low glycemic index stuff in, and you'll find you'll feel much, much better in every way. Your mood as well will be elevated. You won't be as anxious. Your depression will be eased. Your mood will be generally much, much better than it is when you're eating sugary and shitty stuff. That's all for today. Please subscribe, please like the videos, please share them if you think they'll help other people. Much love to you. Carpe Diem today. Make the day that you clear your cupboards from biscuits, sweets, chocolate and ice cream. Much love to you all. Bye bye.